Hello, everybody. Happy Thursday, and welcome back to the No Payne podcast. Today is the 53rd official episode of the No Payne podcast, and I'm happy to say that we've made it this far, despite setbacks, despite moving and everything else, but we are still trucking. For the 53rd episode, we are happy to have Josh, the owner-operator of Capt'n Crow Landscaping, Calgary's own, I should say. Happy to have you here, Josh, and how you doing?
Great to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
I'm doing good.
This is your first time on a podcast or in a live setting, as far as I've heard, hey?
Yeah.
If being alive isn't live enough, as soon as you get thrown in front of a camera with a microphone, everything changes. But
Yeah, I guess so.
yeah, I can assure you it's laid back and it is it's fun nonetheless. Most importantly, advertising the business is really the name of the game, and we're happy to have you here for that reason alone, and we're happy to facilitate, of course.
Excellent. Well, glad to be here. Yeah, thank you.
Of course. For our viewers, might as well throw you a hint for the mystery word challenge, of course, and today's hint will be building materials. Keep that in mind. So, Josh, why don't you tell us a little bit how you got involved in the landscaping industry and maybe why over time you felt it necessary to form a company of your own?
Well, I kind of got into it a little backwards from being in a job that I really didn't like in an office setting, and the owner facilitated myself to kind of get out and work on some of his own properties that he had, and I realized I enjoyed working outside, making things, and then it kind of blossomed from there after I finished university.
Yeah, good call. I mean, if you're an outdoorsman in the first place, or I guess with you saying that you felt cramped in an office all the time, you obviously enjoyed being outside.
Yeah.
And having that opportunity to work for your boss on his projects or what have you certainly helped you to realize that maybe you'd be better off working outdoors.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it was good. Like, it was obviously an owner at the time that recognized good employees or whatever and wanted to, like, make sure they kind of weren't stuck in a job, but kind of were able to probably still work for them, but also do things that they really enjoyed. So we facilitated that opportunity for me. And then when I moved back to Calgary, and then I probably very short-sightedly started a business young, and then kind of grown it from there. Yeah.
Hey, well, I mean, when is the right time to start?
There never is. Yeah.
Yeah, just thinking on something you'd mentioned, working for somebody who was able to provide opportunities for you.
Mm-hmm.
I feel, or in other words, I experienced a similar thing, more so just with facilitating the podcast the way I am now, with the owner, Mike Payne, seeing the capabilities that I had with audio, video, and saying, hey, we should run a podcast. Would you like to do it? Right. So I can relate to you in that way, just having, employers that were able to capitalize on the skill set of people that work under him, right?
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that was a good thing to learn, that like what leadership and ownership and takes to have like good people around you and everything like that. And I think that's really helped me move forward with Capt'n Crow,
right?
And building and kind of focusing on what we want to do in the outdoor construction space, I guess, and how we help out customers, hopefully on a daily basis.
Right. Yes, of course.
Yeah.
This might be off topic slightly, but you mentioned university. I'm just curious as to what you studied while you were there.
I did business at U of L.
That's suiting.
Yeah.
I'd say.
Yeah. It worked out.
Yeah.
It worked out okay.
I got all of this education.
Yeah.
You can think of a good way to put it all to good use, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly.
You also mentioned starting off fairly young as a business owner. When did you first get involved in business?
28 years old when I started Capt'n Crow, 2008.
I'm 28 years old, so I suppose I can relate.
Yeah.
In a way, or what it would be like to maybe start a business at this age.
So we've been doing her just about 15 years now. And obviously you have your growing pains with that, but we have really focused in on what we really like to do now, and outdoor design and construction is really where we've landed, and trying to make Calgary a better place to live, one customer, 1 yard at a time.
Right, of course. And I was going through your website just before you got here, and I saw some remarkable post photos, I could say,
Yeah.
of completed projects, and they look spectacular.
Yeah, thank you.
I saw quite a wide variety of building materials as well. I was hoping that you could maybe let us know about maybe some of the building materials that you're working with most often. Yeah.
We typically, like, natural stone is
Right.
a big thing, like, and we use that in a lot of natural pools. Our big focus around that stuff is like using big timbers, Douglas fir timbers especially. We get from mills just in southern BC to really help with customizing it for our customers, that it looks unique every job.
I would assume it's a softer timber than Douglas fir. If it's
It's like on the
more
harder spectrum
I see.
of softwood.
Okay, I see.
It's local. You can get local stuff, which I really like. I really like to try to buy local and use local products and materials and ideas as much as possible.
Good on you. Of course, yeah.
Opposed to trying to bring stuff in from overseas or whatever. And as we're finding out now, like, there's a lot of backlog right now if you're waiting for material coming across the ocean or even from Eastern Canada. You could be 2-month wait, 3-month wait for product now. So
Okay. Do you think
yeah,
that
it makes
this
it difficult.
Yeah. I'm wondering if this is because, or I guess if a result of the aftermath of the COVID era that we went through.
Sure didn't help it.
Because we had a quite a difficult time getting materials from the United States, roofing materials, because of the holdup, because of just the procedures that needed to be followed because of COVID. So I guess.
And if you're dealing with a manufactured product, just think of the backlog that happened for 2-3 months that these factories were probably shut down or had half staff. That's really hard to catch up on when things started booming and going nuts again.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. No, that's it's overwhelming, to say the least. But I suppose at the same time, it is comforting knowing that you have all this work, these orders that need to be filled.
Yeah.
I know some businesses crumbled, and a lot of people were obviously severely impacted by the by the state of things during the pandemic. But I guess the silver lining is that some companies actually prospered because of it.
Well, yeah, and we got a lot more phone calls like on design and construction and stuff. This is like probably the busiest last 3 years we've had with our company, and it could be partly to do with people wanting to spend more time at home and in their backyards, but as well, I think it's just kind of an evolution of where our company is kind of growing to, and knowing what we do really well and focusing on that.
Right.
And so I think that's helped. Having unreal staff around me are just teammates. I just call them teammates because they're unbelievable at what they do, from carpentry to like all the machine work and dirt work and everything else to bring a staycation to life for a customer, you know?
Yeah, that's a staycation.
Yeah.
That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Because you were saying, I guess, with people spending more time at home, say looking out their kitchen window into the backyard, and they're just imagining all these different features or a total overhaul of their own living space.
Yeah.
Well, if you could consider a backyard as a living space, of course, I think it would count as a living space. But, so as you mentioned,
it's like the draw that someone would have to go to the mountains or whatever. Like, why do you want to go camping? It's because you love sitting around a fire, being with your friends or your family. And if you look outside and you see this great patio or ability to go have a fire, or someone's cooking pizzas in a pizza oven, like how much fun is that?
Yeah,
you know?
Of course.
And so
you try to recreate that feeling.
You try to recreate that for customers. Yeah.
Well, I may have answered my own question. The one I was thinking might be a bit of a curveball question, but I'm thinking to myself, in which ways does Capt'n Crow help to encourage people to spend more time outdoors in their yard as opposed to, or outdoors anywhere for that matter, as opposed to in their house?
Well, I would say it all starts with asking the right questions to the customer on how they want to use their yard. Opposed, like, a lot of people can get caught up on the things part of it. Like, you look at a million pictures in Pinterest, and you're like, hey, I like this, and you never really consider how you want to use your yard. And you bring a company like ours, and there's multitude of companies that are wonderful at the design in Calgary, and we like try to bring all the ideas of how they want to use their yard, and a lot of them will have a budget, and you try to make the most with that budget and how they want to use their yard. Because if you make it to how they want to use it, you look outside and you're like, I want to be out there.
Yeah.
I want to crack a beer out there. I want to have Jimmy over for barbecue tonight, or whatever it might be, right?
Yeah, of course. The landscape that you have at your own disposal would certainly help to facilitate times that you've mentioned, but not to mention encourage, as the question had intended. Yeah, encourage people to actually get out there and invite people over and just have good times generally.
And like the other thing that I stress with customers is when we're going through the design process is like, I can give you all the ideas in the world, but you also have to be critical and like critiquing it and putting like your own little spin on it.
Right.
So each job, they feel like it's their own, right? Instead of making like cookie cutter land.
Yeah,
I know it's easy for us. Like if we know we're coming in and putting in a 12 foot diameter, like fire pit circle, and then a 12 by 12 patio, and then the rest grass. And you could do that in thousands of yards in Calgary. But at the end of the day, do they get used or not really? Or do you make it so there's like maybe some planters or something out there where they can do some gardening around a patio that's inviting to them, that they set up an outdoor table that they have dinners outside during the weekends every year, or even the weekdays or whatever throughout the summer, and they feel like they can have people over. Their yard doesn't look like it's 15 hours of work. It looks like 15 hours of fun.
Yeah. Hey.
You know?
Yeah, there are some houses that as I do in-home inspections constantly, so I'm obviously privy to a wide variety of features and whatnot, and then some yards do give a purely visual type of presentation, I suppose, or it's more for looking rather than getting involved with, being in, right? I guess since everyone's different, of course, but in some yards you see it looks nice, but there's not much to do. There's maybe a small stone patio area, and then all these big rock features and all this other stuff that you can't really do much with other than
just look
appreciate.
Beautiful. Yeah.
Right? That's not to knock these types of yards, but there is obviously a large difference between obviously a yard that's there for, visual purposes rather than, say, practical use.
Yeah. And it still has to look nice, right? Of course, it has to look comfortable. There's, some people really like their privacy, so you got to design it that way. Some people just want to entertain. Some, depending on the size of the yard, you can have like entertaining kind of features. You can have very more private and intimate type settings, depending if you want like a outdoor fireplace where you want to just sit around with a few friends and not really have your neighbors look in. It's designed a certain way, maybe like in the back corners of the yard, trees around, stuff like that, where then you have a bigger patio outdoor kitchen where you have 20 people over, and it still has the same, the customer still feels like they have that entertain and privacy aspect all in one. And I think that really helps out with people enjoying getting out and enjoying their time.
Of course, right.
Yeah.
I just thought of a question as you were talking. I'm wondering if you've had any clients that were maybe intending to landscape the yard to maybe better facilitate animals. Like, I'm thinking of that only because Carly and I have 2 dogs that require a yard. They're not small yappers. We've got medium
Big
to
dogs.
large size dogs, but they're sprinters, right? And so I'm just wondering if there's any projects that you've undertaken that are kind of maybe focused more on facilitating animal use.
I would say probably 60% at least of the projects, that's one of the criteria is we have a dog or we need some sort of dog run that makes our animal feel comfortable. Right. We've built natural pools for the dogs to make sure they can swim in.
Oh, that's awesome. Yeah. That beats a kiddie pool, that's for sure.
Oh, yeah. And it's nice to be around, and kids can go in and out of it. And what else? Like, we work with a Sinlawn, like an AstroTurf type artificial grass and stuff like that. That really helps with yards, and you can have your dog out there, and a lot of these new technologies in that they can easy to clean, so if you've got small kids, you're not worried about just being gross out there and looking like a dead lawn.
That's something I also was fairly interested in. We've had landscapers here in the past, and they've also gone into the practical use of AstroTurf and fake lawn and whatnot. And as a dog owner, I certainly understand just how beneficial having that type of material would be. Right?
Oh yeah.
Not to mention having like an actual dog run, or in other words, say like a segregated part of the backyard.
Yeah.
That would allow for the dogs to do their business, but not compromise the integrity or the appearance of the rest of the backyard itself, which would be very easy for a dog to do.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I also try to sometimes I struggle with dog runs because they're we have a dog of our own, and you don't like to ham them into a 4 foot by 12 foot long dog run.
Yeah.
You'd like to design it so they also feel comfortable out in the yard with everyone, but I guess every customer's different, but yeah, we try to allow for everyone to enjoy the space.
I suppose it depends on how you see your pets. I mean, some dog owners see them as equal family members, others
100%,
as maybe less than. So in designing the yard, that type of opinion might come into play, right? Because I've seen in some yards a really narrow, long, rectangular type dog run versus, say, half the yard delegated for the animals, right? So there's a difference. It really depends on the kind of owner that you are.
Yeah.
And, I mean,
we did one where it was quite a wide dog run, but we also put artificial grass down. But then part of the natural pool, so she wanted her dogs to come out with her and stuff like that when she was around.
Right.
But it had a very open aspect to it. So part of the natural pond that we put in there and natural water source, it came into the dog run. Not that they could swim or anything, but if she was gone for, say, 8 hours working, whatever, the dogs always had fresh water. They were always she never had to worry about that. They had shelter. They had all that kind of stuff.
Right.
And they've really flourished in a setting like that too. So we came up with a design for what she wanted, and it worked out. Yeah,
that's great. I mean, you mentioned earlier too about the importance of the client actually having creative input, right? And for somebody, say, who is catering to a variety of animals, that obviously provides quite the opportunity to help to design what you think would work best for your animals and for the size you have in the backyard and whatnot. So come to think of it, I would love to just leave my dogs outdoors on a nice day while I'm gone for hours on end without the risk of them leaving the yard. But no, that would certainly be the best way to treat an animal, rather as opposed to being, say, in a kennel or just stuck indoors all day where there's potential for, interior damage and everything else. But to have a yard that could facilitate, say, that type of, or that need, you could say, would certainly.
Well, and it also gives peace and comfort to the owner too, knowing that their animal's going to be comfortable.
Yeah, precisely. That's super important.
Nice.
If they are an equal family member, comfort certainly comes first, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Right. That's all good stuff. Let's see what else here. You mentioned a few times natural swimming pools or natural pool systems. I wasn't sure what to picture, because when you say natural, are you sourcing this water, or is this chlorinated, or
no, there's no chemical, and that's the great thing about it. I kind of got into this because I love fly fishing so much, and I know the importance of a clean water system and watersheds and stuff like that, opposed to dirty ones and what happens to the environment around it, and started doing lots of research. And about 8 years ago, I kind of came across all the stuff that was being done in Europe and Austria and Germany and clean water systems and natural water systems, and they've been able to figure out ways of kind of using natural, like what Mother Nature would use in bog systems and air and movement of water and different healthy bacterias and different ways of filtration that cleans water very well and allows plants to grow, so it looks very natural, and it's it's much calmer setting, and the customer doesn't have to worry about any chemicals, and then what I've noticed like since then, so like if you got smaller kids or whatever, kids of any sort, and adults I guess at that point have like skin problems and whatever else when they're in chlorine. With this, it's just clean, fresh water.
I see. So
allows them to, you can bathe in it. You make them so they're swimming pools. You can make them however, they're very scalable.
Right.
Depending on what the customer's after. Yeah.
I see. So do you tie into just like the city water, or because I'm thinking when you say bogs and stuff,
it's filled like it's filled like any type of pond around or swimming pool. And then it's a closed system.
I see.
And that continually circulates or whatever, and like obviously gets topped up when needed.
Oh, okay.
Because there's evaporation. We live in a pretty dry climate, so evaporation can really hit it hard sometimes, especially throughout the summer this year.
No, of course. I see.
But yeah, so like bogs, so like you're always moving. The water's constantly moving through a system that we create that filters the water, that I guess redistributes the water back like into the swim zone that is clean. That's
so it
fresh.
Would be like a scaled up version of an aquarium then in some way.
Yeah, I guess so. I guess like because the levels, like I would say like the bog is essentially like a Brita filter.
Okay, I see. Right.
That kind of simplifies it. It's obviously more to it than that, but yeah.
Because I was thinking,
it forces water through a system that is constantly taking out different size organics or whatever it is, and then allowing that water to be cleaned and aerated. And the idea is you're trying to get it as low nutrient as possible.
I see, right. Because
nutrients is what creates the algae, creates the growth in the water, makes it kind of sucks. It's weird. You'd think more nutrients would add life, but it actually sucks the life out of the like a closed water system.
Of course, I mean, it would promote the growth of algae, like you said, and I mean, it could promote or attract mosquitoes or other type of bug life and things like that.
And you don't want that. So because the water's moving so frequently as well, mosquitoes can't live in these systems. It's great. You can add waterfalls to them. You can kind of be as creative as you want. Like I've had people request that they want to be able to swim and fly fish it at certain times in the same system. So you have to, obviously working with the building codes of the area, but you can a lot of times design it to fit that
so
need.
you could stock it with fish if you wanted to at some point.
Yeah, not in the city, but like if you're in the countryside, legally, I don't think you can. No.
Yeah,
I guess you can make like a koi pond or something like that, but you can't make it deep enough in the city to do that. Yeah.
What are the depth?
Well, typically I would say like because you don't want it to freeze right over, so you want to have it probably 10 to 12 feet deep if you're like on a big piece of land or something like that, you have the ability to do that. But yeah.
Have you taken any projects in like the downtown area of Calgary? Like is that allowable in these areas? And say,
oh yeah, it's the same permitting as what it would be like a pool.
Right. Okay.
If it is a certain size, if it's a small size, a lot of times it's just like they classify it as a pond and like just water feature. So it's depends on what size they want.
I see. Yeah. Right.
Or falls into kind of the hot tub realm.
Okay. Right.
Most of these things, it's kind of frustrating at times, but a lot of times they have to go through like a development permit, not just a building permit. So you have to like get approvals of redevelopment, the city calls it. I think, yeah. So sometimes that's a little bit more challenging.
Right, so it's a pain in the ass, I guess.
Yeah,
To go through, I guess, totally transforming or overhauling your backyard space.
Yeah.
Would that be more difficult, say, in the inner city as opposed to, say, a more like residential area like where we are?
Well, I'd say they have the same challenges in the permit, like the government process, but the more challenge is a lot of times the smaller space you have.
Yeah.
Like there's sometimes you only have alley access because the homes are so tight together. So you can do it only at certain times because you got to have like the schedule of the garbage trucks and whatever else.
And you're trying to get a skid steer in there, and you're the amount of space you have and where you are in the city would play a pretty big role.
Yes,
in that case.
Absolutely. So that they're all like every job's dependent on where they're located. Kind of those are some of the restrictions that you might have.
Right.
Yeah. And sometimes they're just, like sometimes you just got to put a big timber on your shoulders and walk it to the backyard and not have a skid steer lifted back there, an excavator lifting it for you.
Yeah.
It's just sometimes the job, or, for 2 days you're just wheelbarrowing.
I could imagine. I guess it just really depends on the space that you're in.
Yeah.
And I guess the type of space you're working in, that wouldn't be enough for you to turn down a job, would it be? Like, or do you just choose to just push through and, I guess, accommodate whatever living space the client might have? Like, have there been any jobs you've turned down because of how tight the area is? Or
well, you turn them down for all different types of reasons.
Yeah, I suppose.
Yeah, that's probably where I've noticed the greatest growth for me is being able to say no to things. Because sometimes you can get yourself in a position that is not very favorable. Like maybe you didn't get a good feeling from the customer that you're not going to work well together, or maybe, like your point, it's going to be a lot of manual labor. You don't price you have to price it accordingly if there is a lot of manual labor, because that's going to add a lot of time, or, just different factors like that.
Of course. And unfortunately, sometimes you don't really realize, or none of that becomes evident until you're halfway through the job.
Yes, exactly.
Right? And then you're in the middle of it, and you're like, okay, let's just get through this best we can, and deliver what was promised, and try to make a smooth process out of the whole thing. But.
And sometimes landscape and stuff too, because the customer only sees the top part. But like I would say sometimes 50-60%, or no, like 60-70% sometimes is all in that foundational work that goes in that you don't see. So like trying to price out a job accordingly, that was a lot of hard lessons learned, I would say, and trying to understand different soils, what you're dealing with, trying to explain that to the customer.
Right.
And then, because there's been numerous times where the customer, you're on a job for 3 weeks and they're like, what are you doing? And you've been like just building base, and you've been like excavating and, get everything ready. And then all of a sudden in 3 days, all of a sudden they've got retaining walls, they got deck, they got patio, they've got, a hot tub moved in. And they're like, holy moly, you guys finally did some work.
Right. Yeah.
I know we've been at this for, it comes together like this because of all the hard work you do.
Of course.
For the stuff you don't see.
I could equate that to the re-roof process as well in some ways, right?
Yeah.
I mean, they might be wondering why the new materials have yet to be installed, or why parts of the roof are left open, or I guess say not fully re-roofed yet. And of course, you have a lot of work that needs to be attended to in the attic space, right?
Mm-hmm.
Which would require for the roof to be lifted in some areas, as well as say a lot of rotten decking and trussing and all these other things, right? That obviously adds a lot of time to the job.
So you would find that under the roof then sometimes.
Yeah, you pull the pre-existing roofing material off, whether it be tile or asphalt shingles or rubber, whatever it is. But once that comes off, that's normally when you find the bigger issues or the underlying cause of shingle degradation or what have you.
Mm-hmm.
And you can't really put the new material on until these issues are addressed, of course, and obviously that can take a lot more time. So I'd say the average re-roof on your average residential home should take between 2 or 3 days, maybe a day or two if you have the right amount of labor work, and that is addressing, say, a lot of the issues that you'd find inside the attic with HVAC, pertaining to bath fans and whatnot, insulation, ventilation, things like this. But typically you'd have that done in a couple days, but a lot of the work or a lot of the time that it takes goes into, I would say, I guess, the prep, right? And getting things in working order before you install the new material, just as obviously all of the re-leveling and dealing with soil and water runoff and whatever else comes into play.
100%, yeah.
Takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I'm curious as to maybe how long an average project would take from start to finish.
That
if
again
you
is
can
very
create an average.
Yeah, so like if you're an inner city type, depending on how elaborate, again, like if you're just wanting like some simple retaining walls and a entertaining patio and a couple trees and sod, that probably will take a week to a week and a half, depending on access, sometimes less.
Weather conditions.
And then like I would say the average job usually takes 21 to like 27 days, like a month.
Right. Okay.
You try to get it done as fast as possible. You try to get your materials kind of on time delivery, depending on
that's also a big
some
thing.
jobs are real, like the job we just came from, we were able to get you're able to get material all kind of stockpiled. So you spend 2 days stockpiling everything. So then as they run through each thing to do on the site, you know, material's right there. You just grab it. Where some jobs you can only bring it in like 4 or 5 yards at a time, and then you got to wait for the guy to run and do whatever, and then another 4 or 5 yards, or, you know, you bring in all your timber frame or timbers for, let's say you're building a big pergola or a big timber deck or something like that. You would, you kind of have a space that only will allow you to do it, and you have to wait till that's all built until you can do all the other, like maybe softscaping or other hardscapes or something like that.
So yeah, order of operations is a fairly large.
It's very important. Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
I assumed it would at least a couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, and that's understandable because, of course, with projects like this, which are designed to withstand the elements, of course, and you know, survive the tides of time to a degree. Obviously, quality needs to come first and foremost.
Yeah.
Of course. And of course, you say, you know, get the job done as quickly as possible, although obviously quality is first and foremost. So anybody with any real plans to overhaul their backyard would certainly anticipate at least 3 weeks or so.
Yeah, and you got to also consider, depending on where you are in a city, like sometimes you got to involve engineers. Sometimes you got to, like, because it's depending on the size of retaining walls, depending on what you're trying to build, you need to make sure it's going to be built to the best quality, and using really good quality materials that are usually locally sourced, or as much as we can, because like at the end of the day, this is an asset you're building for your customer,
right? And
you hope they use it for the duration of their lifetime, or that they want it, or when they choose to sell it, or whatever.
Of course.
Yeah.
Well, it's obviously a sensible endeavor. I mean, not to mention personal enjoyment, but the kind of value it can bring to the property as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course,
yeah,
that would be a huge. What's the word? Well, that would certainly help to inspire people to make that kind of move, or to move forward with that kind of work.
Yeah, like the best gratitude I can get from a customer is like, you get a text at 11:30 or midnight of them holding a beer or a couple glasses of wine and just saying, "Yeah, thanks, this is awesome." You know.
Yeah, of course.
You know,
it makes it all worth it.
All
right?
worth it. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
I wish more people reached out like that about their new roof. That's a lot less common. It's a lot less common. Like, oh man, I'm sitting on the far end of my backyard, just looking up at that roof, man, cracking a beer.
Look at shed water. Yeah, it's so good.
Okay.
I like that.
So still on the point, I suppose, of natural pool systems, you had mentioned earlier about, say, introducing these systems into Western Canada. I wasn't really sure what that entailed exactly. I'm assuming it's maybe less common here. You mentioned that was prevalent in Austria or these, European countries. But why did you specify, say, introducing that to Western Canada as opposed to the East?
Well, because I don't work out east. So I don't really know.
I suppose.
Yeah, so I guess it's introducing it to Alberta right now.
Okay,
And
cool.
yeah.
I mean,
we've done some projects in radium, and that's how I've got to know some really good guys and made some really good connections in the industry. And
right.
yeah, and a lot of enjoyment has been had by all the people that you put these in for. And so it's kind of been a work in progress to make sure what works here. It's a little different than some of the climates maybe that you're getting the ideas from Europe or wherever else. But,
right.
I've when it comes to the products we use, we've met some really good people from companies out in Kelowna, and I've even here just giving me phone numbers of people that, hey, this guy's been really good. He's done this. He knows what kind of filters and pumps and different things to use, and we can pick their brains and kind of develop systems that work for our cold and then our hot and then kind of the spring and fall seasons.
Right.
The one thing with them that's been really nice that I see moving forward is just people's health. So you've got a really good clean water system that people can, I would call them, plunge into. They can be up to your waist or kind of shoulder height depth, or as deep as 10 feet where you're having to tread water. But they'll also integrate a sauna beside it, and all of a sudden you've got kind of a spa-like backyard. So you've got the cold plunge with hot, and you can have friends over there. I'm finding that's becoming more interesting for people to jump into than having a hot tub.
Yeah.
Right. So that's kind of,
well,
I see that trend kind of moving forward a little bit.
Yeah. I was going to say, if you got the money, you might as well have a hot tub also.
Yeah, there you go.
In the corner for when it's -30.
Or just build a hot spring.
Or that.
Yeah.
I mean, anything
you can
is
heat
possible.
the water. Yeah.
I mean, I don't see it as often. As I said, I do in-home inspections a lot, so I mean, I'm not always in the backyard, but I'm up on the roof often, and I don't see these natural pool systems as often as I'd like to, I suppose.
Yeah, neither do I.
Presumably because of the climate that we're in. Obviously, it's winter for 6 months of the year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that might be a factor in I guess, how popular they've become.
You kind of shut them down. They're able just to, freeze over.
Right.
But you kind of shut them down, I guess, this year, obviously, end of October, it kind of got pretty wintry. Mm-hmm. But typically about middle of November, you can shut them down. Some people will heat them so they can stay open, or you aerate deeper ones so the ice doesn't form as much. So they can kind of stay open maybe 2-3 months. You might want to shut it off, but other than that, you can have it going pretty good.
Right.
Yeah.
That's certainly something I would look into.
Yeah. And they're also heated in the sense, so in the bogs, it's shallower water, there's lots of aggregate. So it's amazing how much solar heat you get from on these water systems. We find that they're usually 7 to 8 degrees warmer than what a local body of water. So in the middle of summer, if you jumped in Glenmore Reservoir and you're like, oh, this isn't too bad, but kind of takes your breath away, a natural pool would be 7 to 8 degrees warmer. So pretty comfortable to swim around in, really, when it's hot out, especially.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, the hotter it is, the cooler I'd like the water to be.
There you go. Yeah. So.
No, I grew up in the Okanagan as well. So.
You saw pools.
Yeah, certainly. And I grew up next to a body of water, of course. So I guess integrating that sort of thing into my own property would certainly be something for the bucket list.
Yes. Yeah.
I'll just keep on buying those Lotto Max tickets.
There you go.
See what I can do. Yeah. Classic pack once a week. See what happens.
Yeah. But, the price of them are typically similar to what a pool build would be.
Right.
But just the running cost of them is quite a bit less. and the maintenance of them is definitely way less.
Right.
And I think there's a real relaxation factor you have around because you have all these plants. It seems it's the same reason why you just want to go sit by a creek or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's this tranquility that kind of comes over you when that is in your space.
Yeah, that's a good word to use.
Yeah,
I agree.
thanks.
That's a good way to put it. No doubt. Well, I certainly would have to go back to the drawing board after this conversation about future plans. Isn't that right, honey? Huh? Natural pool? What do you think? Oh, yes. That's what I thought. Yeah, that'd be a great idea. And again, I said we have a couple animals too, so I doubt that the yard that I can someday call my own would be up to par. And
you never know, right?
Yeah, I guess you never know. You're right.
You got to dream.
Yeah, of course. You just got to find the right spot.
Exactly.
But if it's not the right spot, we know who to call, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
So, another inquiry, I suppose, is the landscaping industry overall.
Mm-hmm.
You were talking earlier about the current status of the landscaping industry and how Capt'n Crow kind of plays into that. So I was hoping you could elaborate a little bit for us.
Well, I'd like to think that we try, like one of our line for Capt'n Crow is set the bar. And so we do that because a lot of things in the base, you set bars down to like make sure you're right on grade or whatever else. But as well, we like to think that we're always trying to critique ourselves and raise the standard of what we do. And I'd like to think that there's a lot of good companies in Calgary that I think do the same thing, that you don't look at what other people are doing. You kind of look internally at yourself and then you strive to be better than the other companies around you or whatever. And we push each other, to build. There's enough work to go around in the city that you make all these spaces that people want to spend more time outside. That's the role I think we try to play in Calgary, is that you want to always bring innovative ideas to the landscape industry. You want to try to bring really quality craftsmanship, and you also want to try to create communities around you of people that supply material, that if you have good relationships like the one we're on right now, we have some pretty good relationships. So like I said with Sinlawn, Wilco's really helped us out at times where we need it. We don't look at each other as adversarial. We look at each other as like, how do we make each other better?
Right.
That's kind of the take that I've learned to go.
People in similar industry, but also say suppliers like timber distributors, for example. I mean, you can certainly help to better establish their company.
100%.
By purchasing materials from them, not to mention them selling large quantities to you, and the world goes around.
And instead of like looking at things always as a low cost, you look at it as a relationship, and you prove that to these vendors or other people or like companies around you, and they're more willing to help you out when you kind of are in a pinch or whatever. Like that's when you need a load of gravel at whatever 3:30 in the afternoon on a Thursday. You can phone them up and they're literally there, 4:45, and you can keep working and whatever else. Where if you don't have that relationship, you're kind of hooped until the next day, most likely.
Right. I was thinking building business relationships, even personal relationships. It's an integral part of conducting business. And you find yourself in a pickle, like you said, on a late afternoon towards the end of the week, and it can be difficult to find the materials that you need.
It sure can, yeah.
It's a little different from running to your local, roofing supplier, as opposed to needing like a truckload of gravel. It could likely be a more difficult type of product to find.
Yeah.
But I understand.
Yeah, no, it's I think, starting out, you don't have that. It's more of a famine mentality where like you think everyone's out to get you. You just gotta push hard and hopefully it works out. Where like now you realize, you know, there's an abundance of things around you, and you've got to treat people with respect. You got to work hard and do a really good job. And that's and people kind of buy into that, I found.
Yeah.
More than not.
It would be inspiring, of course, for other business owners or operators of any variety, of course.
Yeah. Well, they inspire me. So, you know,
exactly.
you got to back and forth.
If only every business owner was equally mindful of these things as you are.
Well, thanks. Yeah, I don't know.
Let's hope every
work in progress
in the city can tune into this podcast and hear the wise words from magnificent Josh.
Yeah, there you go.
Right on. Well, I couldn't have said it better myself.
Yeah. Oh,
well worded, of course. So hey, enough of business. Let's talk. Let's talk Josh. Let's talk Josh interest. Let's talk hobbies. What are you into? You mentioned fly fishing earlier.
Oh yeah,
right. So
I love fly fishing. Yeah, I grew up in Olds, and I guess parents had me out more times than not in the West Country of Sundre and stuff like that. So you just I just got to love mountain biking and fly fishing and skiing and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I love to do. But we've got a small family right now, so you do that less.
Yeah, that is life after all, I suppose. Right?
But I guess my other love is like cooking outside and cooking we've got a pizza oven and stuff like that. I love cooking outside,
nice.
Pizza oven and steaks and whatever else that I can get my hands on to make good grub for people.
So you might frequent Cabela's, places like Cabela's and Bass Pro. They have a whole lot of that kind of equipment, like a nice Traeger smoker or something like that. Things like this.
Yeah, no, those are good. I don't know. I've never really smoked anything. I'd love to, but yeah, like barbecue and pizza oven. That's my jam.
Smoking, considering you would typically do that outdoors.
Yes, exactly.
I don't have any experience with that either, but figured I'd ask. But, you're certainly an outdoorsman, and you have quite an appropriate appetite for an outdoorsman if you're just cooking over open flame often. And you went as far as a pizza oven. Are you Italian by any chance? Or?
No. I guess maybe long back, maybe who knows?
Those traces of DNA are sneaking up in you, and you gotta buy a pizza oven.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you can always know you're doing a good job when like the neighbors are peeking over the fence. Hey, what's for dinner? Yeah.
So I assume you're eating what you're catching a lot of the time as well, or?
No, it's all catch and release that's how Dad brought us up, and that's kind of how I do it. I guess I fly fish less. We try to, like with my wife and family, you try to get out skiing and biking a lot more, but
I've never been fly fishing. I've seen it quite a bit, but
it's fun.
Yeah, I could imagine.
Yeah.
It's obviously a lot more labor intensive, I suppose.
Yeah, and you get into places that no one else is.
Yeah, of course.
It's kind of back to the landscape, you know.
A lot of the time it's fast flowing currents and things like that. That's what I see typically. Yeah. So
on the Bow River for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I guess casting a rod traditionally might decrease your chances of a catch.
Yeah, it depends where you're at and how intuitive you are with the surroundings on what the fish potentially could be eating.
I'm trying to sound like I know what I'm talking about.
No, it's good. I'm trying to help you out.
Just trying to make good conversation. Asking the right questions, right?
Yeah.
So I assume there's a lot of good fishing out around Olds and Sundre, these areas that you mentioned.
Yeah, I grew up on fishing the Red Deer River and like sometimes the Little Red and the Dog Pound Creek, and every once in a while you get lucky and you can get on a trip with Dad out like in one of the mountain streams in southern Alberta or something like that, or up by Nordegg. But it was right on. It was a lot of fun.
Yeah, that's great. I envy your choices. I mean, it certainly inspired me to, I guess, get more involved with fishing and trying to get some equipment and get myself out there a little more. When I'm out in the woods, I'm primarily camping. I do a lot of shooting as well. So
awesome.
Shooting and camping and stuff like that.
Like shooting, like skeet and stuff like that.
Yeah,
or just
primarily skeet and just
hunting in
practice.
general.
I have steel targets and a lot of clay birds and stuff. I have bolt action, semi-auto.
Yeah,
I just go out there for fun, and I'm at the range periodically, but
Yeah,
something I took up maybe just beginning of last year.
Oh, so much fun. Yeah, I love that.
It certainly is.
Yeah.
And then when I finally discovered tannerite at Cabela's, it's an explosive that you can purchase from Cabela's.
No way.
You shoot it essentially, and it's big boom.
Yeah.
You have to be in specific areas to use it, but I bring my chainsaw with me when I'm camping a lot of the time.
Yeah.
But I'll see a skinny enough dead tree, strap some tannerite to it,
No.
go 100 yards back, pull out the 308, and just
kaboom.
Yeah, exactly, to fell a tree. That's one way to. That's one way to get the timber you need.
Yeah. No kidding. That would be a fun way to do it.
That's a mighty timber.
Yeah.
Bolt it. Boom. That's fun. It's like $60-$70 for a decent pack. It's like these plastic jars. So you have to kind of just mix the other jars together, shake it up, get the duct tape out, strap it to a tree.
Holy
moly. It's a boom. I'll tell you.
Yeah,
the first time it was a lot louder.
Is there any tree left after? Buck up or anything? There's
definitely
like
probably
that?
a good meter of the tree that was just, vaporized. But good way to fell a tree. The thickest so far was probably around the diameter of a basketball, maybe.
Oh, that's a pretty
maybe
good sized
13
tree.
or 14 inches around, maybe.
Yeah.
And it's powerful stuff.
Yeah,
I'm not sure how that would I'm not sure it's equivalent in TNT, as a lot of explosives do compare to TNT, but I don't know. It works.
I don't know much about TNT, but
Tannerite, I guess we'll say, is entry level, or I guess say over the counter.
Yeah,
TNT.
There you go.
Tannerite.
That you're allowed. Yeah,
I have some fun of my own. And
yeah,
of course, the dogs love it too, being out in the woods and shooting too. They were both worried about the gunfire at first, but now they don't care at all. They'll just sprint all over the place. I have to actually be careful of my sights.
We're responsible.
We're responsible.
Well, they're not always. It depends on how big the.
It's not our dogs went through a shooting forest.
No, they're not. Maybe I made it sound worse than it actually is.
Yeah,
it's not that bad. But
dogs are safe.
I guess what I meant to say.
Yeah.
What I was trying to say is that they were really, really skittish and scared of the noise. And after a while, they don't care.
Yeah, it's like a firework almost to them, right?
Yeah. But yeah, no, we are very mindful of where the dogs are at when we are shooting. No doubt about that.
No kidding. Yeah, I guess what else got me outside was I was a big avid bow hunter. I still do that, but yeah, that's the other thing I love to do outside.
Yeah, cool. A buddy of mine, Bo, the bow hunter.
Bo the bow hunter.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
He's been taking that up recently. He's been all just primarily just like a non-mechanical bow, I suppose I could say, or just like your average or your
compound
traditional
type
bow.
Bow.
Yeah. I've yet to go out there with him, but he's been inviting me. I guess
you should take him up on that.
I plan on it.
Yeah.
Well, I was married this summer, so a lot of my time was certainly occupied. Yeah. It's hard for me to get out and do what I really want. Well, of course, I wanted to get married, but I don't mean that in a bad way. But no, I intend on having some more free time for leisure next summer. Or this
That's awesome.
Summer. But bow hunting would be fun, getting out there and learning to track and everything else that he's spent a lot of time learning.
Honing the skills,
Exactly. I intend on hoping to catch up to him and learn the trade someday. As I said, I'm shooting, but to get myself some tags and bring some meat home someday would be
it's
nice.
just peaceful getting out, right? That's kind of ties back to everything that we try to do. Is
it's tranquil.
Tranquility is what you strive for, right?
Yeah, that's right.
Where you can recharge, you can kind of balance yourself and everything else. Yeah,
that's nice to get away.
Yes,
lose the cell phone signal. For a little while. That's really helpful.
Yeah.
And, just take it all in, and just be alive for a little while and nothing else.
There you go.
Yeah.
Right. No, that's what you try to do.
That's right.
Yeah.
Well, Josh, it's been about an hour now, and I think we've certainly accomplished what we were trying to accomplish.
Okay.
It's been a fantastic conversation.
Yeah,
getting to know the inner workings of Capt'n Crow and what you guys facilitate, and certainly learned a couple things, no doubt about it. I wasn't really too sure about what it meant, to have an operating natural pool system in your own yard, and the ins and outs of that, and not to mention having a better understanding of the industry itself. So it's been educational having you here. Of course.
Yeah, thanks a lot. Well, thanks for having me. This has been awesome. I was worried I wasn't going to make her today coming back from a job in southern Alberta, but we raced and Made her.
Yeah, you made it, and we had things. Yeah, we got to the podcast space here a little later than we would have liked to, but as far as I know, everything ran smoothly, and audio and video is all there. And setting it all up in the new space, it can be finicky, but again, I'm working all day, and sometimes, as you can see, I show up in my work clothes and blah blah blah.
I think I still got mud on my. Sorry.
Yeah, maybe someday, if Mike's listening, maybe someday my only job would be facilitating the podcast. Maybe we'll start doing 3 a week someday, maybe 4.
Yeah.
But, a man can dream, right?
Can dream, yeah. That's what you shoot for. I love it.
Yeah, the new Joe Rogan, right? You never know. Well, anyways, thank you to our viewers, of course, for tuning into the 53rd episode of the No Payne podcast. We are slowly approaching 100 episodes. And I think it would be wise for us to put together something spectacular for 100 episodes. That would certainly be a milestone for the company and for myself, being able to be a part of it. So slowly approaching 100 episodes, as I said. We're getting there slowly but surely. And today was just as good as it can get, having a fabulous guest like Josh himself of Capt'n Crow. I should say thank you to Daniel as well, too, who showed up for all the audio video. You guys will see shortly coming up on social media, all the good shots, making Josh look as good as he can, of course, with the nice pro cameras that he's got. Big thanks, big shout out to the wife behind the board. Good job, Carly. She did great. And big thanks to Josh as well, coming in well-equipped, knowledgeable of what we're here to talk about.
Thank you.
And, of course, not bad at all for your first live interview. You did spectacular. Of course, once it streams or once it's available, and rewatch that someday, and don't be too hard on yourself, because it was fantastic, of course.
Yeah.
And last but not least,
hopefully we can do it again.
Of course, we do encourage a returning or reoccurring appearance, of course, because the industry changes, of course. New products become available, new building techniques, and maybe you'll land this crazy awesome job that the world needs to know about.
Yeah.
Right? This would be a great
Well, do you guys do live roofing and stuff like that? Have you guys ever got into that?
We have been looking into expanding in some ways, because we are going to go through some major changes in the podcast space, and we are going to, I think, at some point kind of do a more like live on the spot kind of podcast type approach. It's hard to say exactly how or when. But we do intend on expanding in these ways.
Yeah, very cool.
It's kind of all just a shot in the dark right now, because we obviously have this space at our disposal, but who knows what the future holds for us, right? Yeah. It's all exciting, and that's the name of the game, excitement, right? And that's why our viewers tune in, because you never know who's going to be on. You never know what we're going to talk about. And speaking of not knowing, the mystery word. Not sure if we had any accurate guesses or any close guesses, but of course, when the podcast goes off the air, you can still continue to guess for the mystery word in the comment section on either Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So, of course, be sure to continue on guessing. If you get it right, of course, we will contact you, and you will have your chance at winning $500 cash. If you don't win the cash, we have a slew of prizes, which you can find in some of our older posts that outline the podcast giveaways. We even had one grand prize giveaway probably about 4 months ago or so, and that was fun, of course. So look for those videos, and keep guessing the mystery word, because you could be the grand jackpot No Payne Roofing prize giveaway. So enough of my ramblings. Again, big thank you to our audience, to Josh, to Daniel, to Carly, and to Mike Payne for putting it all on. Be sure to join us next Thursday for our next podcast episode. And if we do have a podcast winner, a mystery word challenge winner before then, we will be going live this coming Monday at 3 p.m. to do the prize draw reveal. So enough said. Be good to one another. Take care. And if you have any need for a landscaper, be sure to contact Josh at Capt'n Crow Landscaping.